Hello, welcome. I'm excited that you'll be sewing with me today. Today we're going to be sewing the pace skirt, and the pace skirt is a skirt. It has, you can either put shorts underneath it or you can put briefs underneath it. You can use it for athletics or just anything you want a skirt for. I'm going to be using some Ponte fabric that is really nice, and I'm excited to show you all the steps in the pattern. First up, we're going to be just looking at the pattern pieces. So let's get started. So the pattern pieces, I have pieces for my skirt part. I have pieces for my waistband, and I have pieces for my undershorts or briefs if you've chosen the briefs in the pattern. So I'll get started with first showing you the skirt. So the skirt has 3 pieces. It has an upper back like a yoke, and then under the upper back you're going to sew a pleated section. And when you cut out your pleated section, make sure that you mark all of your pleats. So you can see how I used a marker to mark all of them, and as well as marking where the center is. I just put a C. I'm using water soluble marker on that. And whenever you do your yoke, just make sure you mark where the center is on that, on the top and on the bottom. That'll be useful. The bottom will be useful in making sure you've lined it up with the center of your pleats. And then the top will be useful to make sure you've lined it up with the center back of your waistband. There's also your front skirt part, and I've cut that on the fold, and I've marked where my fold line is. So that is all of your front pattern pieces. For your waistband, you're going to be cutting 2 sets. So you have your front and your back, and there's going to be 2 of each. And whenever you cut them on the fold, make sure you mark where your fold line is. For your undershorts, you have a side panel that has a side pocket with it. And then you also have 2 backs that you're cutting out mirrored images, as well as 2 fronts that you're cutting out mirror images. So let's get started. We are working on the pleats now. Before we can get to our sewing machine, we need to you're either going to grab a bunch of pins or a bunch of clips, whichever ones that you use to hold stuff together. And we're going to start on one edge. And you see I've marked my pleats on both the wrong and right side for the most part. And I'm just going to start on this edge, and you're taking, so you have a mark here, then you have a fold mark, and then you have another pleat mark. And you're going to take this hand and you're going to fold it this way. So you're going to meet those 2 markings together, and then you should see that it's folded where I had that fold mark. I marked my fold marks to be shorter than my pleat marks so I could tell the difference in them. And then once you have it over, put lots of pins or lots of clips. And your first pleat is going to be going towards your side seam. You'll see it angled out towards your side seam. Okay, the next pleat, we are putting this onto this, making sure it folds on the fold line, and then folding it back. And then again, a bunch of clips. Once we have it all clipped down where we want it to be, we're going to baste it in place as well. And then we'll also iron our pleats. Okay, so I'm going to keep going, keep doing this. So you notice that the edges are right next to each other. So you're going to have 3 layers of fabric all throughout the back. There's no space in between your pleats. Go ahead and then whenever you get to the center, it's a half pleat. So you don't have that fold mark in the middle because it's being half pleated in one direction and then half pleated in the other direction. So I did the half pleat that way, and then I'll do a half pleat this way. These pleats are probably the most time-consuming part of this skirt. Everything else should go rather quickly, and it just takes time because you need to pin them all together and make sure you see how it's a half pleat in the center. but it's the same size. It's just part of it is pleated this way and then part of it is pleated this way. And now we're pleating the other direction. See what that looks like. And I'm using a ton of clips. You can also use a ton of pins. Either way, you're just wanting to keep all of these layers together. And then I'm picking up, see where it's longer. And then I make my markings where they're shorter is just where it indicates where there's a fold line. And I have each pleat, you see how it's just nested right next to each other. There's no space between them, and they're also not overlapping each other. I'm on my last one. Okay, and now I'm going to baste these pleats down and then we'll press them. Now that we have our pleats basted, it should look like this. Here, I'll turn it to face you. And we're going to make sure they're all even, and we're going to give them all a really nice press. So by even, I mean an even fold, like the same amount of fabric is folded up here as is folded here, because you're kind of pressing a nice crease into these pleats. And now that we have our pleats nice and pressed, you're going to grab your upper back piece that was cut on the fold, and you're gonna again find the right side and place it. It should match up perfectly here. So you're gonna put right sides together, pin it in the middle or clip it in the middle, and then we're going to go to our machine and we're gonna sew this together at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And once we have it all sewn together, we will top stitch everything down. So let's go back to the sewing machine. I have my seam connecting the pleats to the upper back finished, and now I'm going to flip that seam. I'm going to flip that seam up towards the upper back, so away from the pleats, and I'm going to top stitch it down just so that it stays in place. And since it's a knit, I'm going to use my twin needle. You just want to make sure that you are using some kind of a stretch stitch. If you were using a stretch woven, you could use just a straight stitch on your machine, but I prefer a stretch stitch since I'm using such a stretchy fabric. Now we are complete with sewing the back of our skirt, and it's time to grab the front of your skirt, and you're going to put the front and the back right sides together. The top facing this way, and we're going to pin or clip them all along the sides, and we're going to sew the side seams. Now that we have finished our skirt, we can set that aside. We are going to work on our waistband next. So you're going to have 2 back pieces and 2 front pieces. So you're going to put one front with one back and the other front with the other back, and you're going to sew the side seams of each. Okay, now that you have your 2 waistband pieces sewn, we're going to sew them at the top. So all along the top of the waistband. And we're going to put them right sides together, which means that you're going to need to take one of them and flip it to the right side, and then leave the other one with the wrong side showing, and put those together. And once they're together, you're going to sew all along the top of that waistband, and making sure that you line up your front with your front and your back with your back. You can tell the difference between your front and your back because your front is actually a little bit shorter than your back. And we're going to sew these right sides together. We have finished the body of our skirt. We finished our waistband. Now on your waistband, we just need to turn it to where the wrong sides are facing, and then the waistband is finished. Now we're going to work on either our undershorts or the briefs if you've chosen the brief option. I am doing the shorts. So on the undershorts, the first thing you're going to want to grab will be your side panel and then the pocket piece. The pocket is optional, but I definitely recommend using it. It's very helpful. So I'm marked on the top of the pocket where the fold line is. So you're just going to fold it over right there, and then you're going to hem just across the top here. So I'll use my twin needle and go straight across, and I'm going to do that on both pieces. And once I have that finished, the hemming part, I will line it up with the bottom of my pocket like this, and I'll just baste it all around the edges so that now they're one piece, and I'll treat the side panel then as one piece with the pocket attached to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do those steps. Let's go over to the sewing machine. So I'm going to go ahead and set my skirt aside for now in my waistband. And I just went to the machine and put in the pocket on each side panel. And now I'm going to grab my shorts back piece. And I'm going to match the back piece to its side panel. So you know the back piece is going to go to the side panel that is longer, the longer edge side panel. And you're going to put them right sides together. So make sure that you have your right sides facing, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other back panel. I'm going to put it right sides facing, and I'm going to sew both of these with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. When I'm done with that, I'll open each of them back up, and I will sew the front panel to the other side of the pocket. So once I'm done sewing both, it'll look like this. And it'll look like that, and I'll have 2 mirrors. So make sure that they're 2 mirrored images when you're done with that. Okay, let's head over to the machine. I am back from the machine, and you should have 2 pieces that look like this. They each have a pocket, they each have a back and a front, and they're mirror images of each other, so you can put them right sides together, one on top of the other, just like this. And now we're going to sew our these 2 seams right here. This will be your rise, so this will be the back, and this is the front. So we're going to sew this right here, and as soon as we're done sewing it, I'll flip it to the right side and I'll top stitch it. So this seam right here, and then top stitch. Okay, so now that you've top stitched, it looks like this, and you can pick out your side and put it like this. And now the only thing left to do on these shorts is to sew our inseam right here, and then to turn it under and hem. And you know where to turn it under because of where the triangle starts to come out. So you turn it under directly there, and then iron it flat and hem it all the way around. And also another note, when I top stitched this, I used my twin needle on my regular machine. You can use any stretch stitch to top stitch down your machine. And the same thing when you do your hem. I'll use my twin needle, or you can use your cover stitch if you have a cover stitch machine, or you can use a zigzag or any kind of stretch stitch that works for you. But before we hem, we're gonna get that inseam sewn. To sew it, I'm gonna turn these to where the right sides are facing and the insides are facing me. And I'm going to line up my hems, and I'm just going to sew this entire seam straight across like this. So now that we finished our undershorts, we hemmed them and did our inseam before we hemmed them. They're done, our skirt is done, and our waistband, and we just need to put all three of these together. So to do that, you're going to slip your shorts inside of your skirt, where the right side of your skirt is against the inside of your shorts, just the way you're going to be wearing them. And you're going to want to mark where your center is for the front of your skirt, and line that up with the front, and then do the same thing in the back, just to keep things even. And then you have your waistband, and as what you're going to do with your waistband is you're going to turn it where this is where it meets the skirt, and you're going to put them right sides together to where now you have all of these layers like this. And we're going to sew around, and I'm going to quarter it, so I'm going to match up where the back center is, the front center, and I'm going to see where my side seam's at so that I know how much to stretch this band to fit. And then whenever I finish that, all that's left is hemming. I try it on. There is a 1 1/4 inch hem allowance to hem it, but try it on, and you might want to take less or more, just depending on your preference for a skirt length. So after you put your waistband on, we'll just flip it all the way up and hem, and then we're done. Thank you so much for joining me.